Emma stared absently out the taxi window, watching the Chicago buildings pass by in a blur. She was lost in thought, puzzled by the subtle changes in Jack's behavior over the past few months. The signs were small: working late more often, glancing frequently at his phone, vague details about his days, but her intuition told her something was amiss. As an investigative journalist earlier in her career, Emma had honed her skills of observation and analysis. She could detect the slightest alteration in a source's body language or tone of voice, signaling a shift in their transparency. Those same instincts were now sending off quiet alarms in her mind whenever she and Jack had a conversation. Emma glanced down at her phone as a calendar notification popped up, indicating their upcoming 15th anniversary. They had always celebrated each year with a special dinner or getaway. She wondered if Jack had made any plans this time or even remembered at all. The taxi pulled up at Emma's office and she gathered her things, resolving to pay closer attention to Jack's behavior over the next few days. Perhaps it was nothing. Or perhaps her skills were telling her that her husband had become one of her own investigative subjects. That evening, Emma made Jack's favorite pasta dish, hoping a comfortable meal might open him up to conversation. As they ate, she asked harmless questions about his work and colleagues, searching for any strange reaction. But Jack seemed relaxed, telling a funny story about a client meeting earlier that day. Emma smiled along with the anecdote, all the while scrutinizing his expression, posture, and other subtle cues. She couldn't pinpoint anything concrete, yet her instincts were still tingling. She knew if she was going to get to the bottom of this, she would need to gather more evidence. The next morning, Emma arrived early at the office, a nonprofit women's advocacy organization where she worked in communications. With some spare time before her colleagues arrived, she began Googling Jack's law firm and browsing profiles of the attorneys. Most were older men, partners who had been at the firm for decades. One face stood out: Diane, an attractive brunette who looked around Jack's age. Diane was a junior partner who specialized in family law. Emma felt an immediate pang of suspicion. Over the next few days, Emma studied Jack's phone when he wasn't looking, scrolled through his social media, and even followed him when he claimed he had to work late one night. But she turned up nothing concrete. Jack was keeping whatever he was hiding well covered. Emma realized she needed to get access to tangible evidence. She knew from experience that most people became careless with receipts, appoint slips, the types of paper trails that would seem innocuous to them but contain vital clues. She waited until Jack left for work one morning before quickly rummaging through his home office, snapping photos of anything she thought could be useful later. As she was about to turn off the light and leave the room, a receipt on Jack's desk caught her eye: a charge from Mitchell's Fine Jewelry for $5,200. Emma's pulse quickened. Their anniversary wasn't for another 2 weeks. What expensive jewelry had Jack bought, and why hadn't she received it? She took a photo of the receipt before putting it back exactly as she found it. Over lunch that day, Emma pulled out her phone and Googled Mitchell's Fine Jewelry in Chicago. She felt her stomach drop when a collection of diamond tennis bracelets came up in the image results, one tagged for over $5,000. Her mind started racing. Immediate suspicions confirmed Jack had purchased a lavish diamond bracelet for another woman. Why else would he keep such an exorbitantly priced piece of jewelry hidden from his wife? Anger and humiliation washed over Emma as the reality set in. Jack was having an affair. And she had a feeling she knew exactly who the other woman was. Emma paced back and forth in the living room, pulse still racing after her discovery of Jack's jewelry receipt. The diamond tennis bracelet, the price tag, there was no denying what was happening. Her investigative skills had unfortunately proven her worst fears correct. Just then, Emma heard Jack's key turning in the front door. Panicked, she quickly sat down on the couch and picked up a magazine, attempting to appear nonchalant. "Hey hon, how was your day?" Jack asked casually as he set his briefcase down and loosened his tie. Emma studied his face, wondering how he could come home and act so normal when he was betraying their marriage. "Oh fine, nothing special," Emma replied, amazed at how steady her voice sounded. "What about you?" "Yeah, the usual. Long client meetings, frustrating paperwork. I'm glad it's over." Emma felt anger rising within her. He lied so smoothly without even a telltale blink. She set down the magazine and took a deep breath. "So Jack, our anniversary's coming up next week. Made any plans to celebrate?" she asked. Jack's eyes darted quickly to the side before meeting hers. No, I guess it slipped my mind with everything going on at work. But we'll do something nice, I promise." He walked over and gave her a peck on the cheek. It made Emma want to scream. Well, you should make reservations somewhere tomorrow, Emma responded. 15 years is a big milestone. Jack nodded absently, already moving toward his office and shuffling through some papers on his desk. The bracelet receipt was gone. He must have removed the evidence after she had photographed it. Annoyed by his indifference, Emma grabbed her purse and headed for the door to clear her mind with a long walk. I'm going out for a bit. We'll talk plans later, she called over her shoulder. After the door slammed shut, Jack glanced up with a furrowed brow, perplexed by her tone. Emma wandered the city streets aimlessly as she grappled with this new reality. The Jack she knew and loved had been erased, replaced by a dishonest stranger who so convincingly played the role of devoted husband. She replayed everything from courtship to marriage and couldn't pinpoint a moment where he had ever betrayed her trust. Until now. As the Chicago skyline twinkled around her, Emma's shock and disbelief slowly transformed into anger, anger at Jack for destroying their marriage and anger at herself for not realizing sooner. The one time her keen skills had failed her was in assessing her own husband's fidelity. She had been living in a carefully constructed facade, too blinded by love and trust to pick up on the cracks in their foundation. By the time Emma returned home, steely resolve had set in. She would need to be cunning to figure out how exactly to confront Jack and bring consequences for his actions. She had compiled her evidence, quietly and skillfully as she was trained. Now it was time for justice. Emma decided to act normal and make their anniversary dinner plans for the following Saturday so as not to provoke any suspicion in Jack. She would allow him to wonder whether she might know anything, rocked by the paranoia of hiding the affair for so long. A small mind game before she made the larger play. A few days later, Emma sat in a cafe near Jack's office, having told him she was meeting a friend for lunch. Instead, she was waiting to follow him, needing confirmation of exactly who his mistress was before proceeding. Around noon, Jack came walking out of his building next door. Emma peered discreetly around the menu she had propped up, watching as he strolled down the block to a bistro restaurant. Her stomach turned when she saw who emerged through the doors to greet Jack with a hug: Diane, the attractive brunette lawyer from his firm's website. Trying to calm her shaking hands, Emma snapped a few discreet photos of them laughing over lunch. So her suspicions had been correct. She felt sick imagining Jack showering Diane with jewelry, confiding in her, sharing with her all that Emma had once thought was exclusively between them. It was a profound betrayal on so many levels, personal, professional, and financial, based on that tennis bracelet receipt. Emma left the cafe in a fog, the city streets blending together as her mind raced. By the time she got home, a plan for retaliation had begun brewing in her mind, something befitting the scale of Jack's offenses. She deserved justice and he deserved to suffer the consequences, professionally and personally. She would see to it on both counts. First, Emma began anonymously reaching out to reporters at the major Chicago newspapers. Using an encrypted email account, she fed them salacious details of Jack and Diane's affair, even attaching photos, without ever revealing her identity. Emma made sure to emphasize that Diane was the daughter of Jack's firm's senior partner, a crucial power dynamic that made their trysts all the more scandalous. Sure enough, within a few days the story was gaining traction in the local news. The headlines highlighted the messy inter-office romance made all the more controversial given Diane's personal connections. Speculation abounded regarding favoritism along with sexist double standards, since Jack seemed to be avoiding blame in the court of public opinion. Emma watched proudly as Jack scrambled to do damage control, obviously panicked that his shining reputation might be tarnished by tabloid fodder. Served him right. But Emma wasn't finished yet. She still needed to make him pay on a more personal level. The night of their anniversary dinner, Emma dressed elegantly in a black cocktail dress and heels, as if nothing were amiss. When Jack arrived home, she greeted him pleasantly and off they went to the upscale steakhouse he had reserved for the occasion. Over filet mignon and wine pairings, Emma made charming small talk, while Jack seemed distracted and on edge. She relished his discomfort, knowing everything would come crashing down quite soon. After they returned home, Emma invited Jack to sit with her on the living room sofa. She had prepared a wrapped gift box, watching with satisfaction as Jack's face registered surprise. "Oh wow, Emma, you didn't need to get me anything," Jack said earnestly. "Of course I did. What kind of wife would I be if I didn't get my husband a gift on our anniversary?" Emma replied with a smile. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Jack carefully tore back the silver wrapping paper, looking touched that Emma had thought to surprise him. As he opened the black velvet box inside, Emma leaned forward in anticipation. What is this?" Jack stammered, all color draining from his face. Nestled inside was a diamond tennis bracelet exactly like the one he had purchased for Diane. Emma had ordered it specially using the same receipt photo she had taken weeks earlier. "You don't remember getting this dazzling bracelet for someone special?" Emma needled, relishing his stunned expression. "Oh, that's right, you got it for Diane. I just had to replicate the gesture for you, since she clearly deserves nice jewelry more than your wife." Jack sputtered in disbelief, accusation, and guilt flashing across his face all at once. The facade had come crashing down with brutal finality. "How did you? I mean, it was just—" Jack grasped for plausible deniability but came up empty. Emma stood up from the sofa, gazing coldly down at her crumbling husband. "Just a meaningless affair? Is that what you were going to say?" "I know all about it, Jack. I have evidence. Did you really think your investigative journalist wife wouldn't put the pieces together?" Jack seemed to deflate before her eyes, sinking back into the sofa cushions. "Emma, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. It didn't mean anything, it was just a mistake." Emma scoffed in disgust. "A mistake? You made a choice to betray our marriage and obstruct the truth from me at every turn. I could have forgiven a drunken one-night stand, but this went on for who knows how long right under my nose. With my trust and respect hanging in the balance. Tell me, Jack, has our entire marriage been a sham?" Jack reached for her hand, but Emma pulled away sharply. "No, of course not. I love you, I've always loved you. Please, please forgive me, Emma. I'll do anything." Seeing Jack so distraught only fueled Emma's anger and hurt even more. There would be no sympathy or reconciliation now. Maybe years down the road, but not today. "It's too late, Jack," Emma seethed. "You took everything we had and shattered it. And what's worse, you made me question my own perception. Well, now the proof is clear and so is the path forward. I'm meeting with my lawyer next week. This marriage is over." Emma grabbed her purse and made her way swiftly to the front door, holding back furious tears. As she walked out, leaving Jack collapsed in anguish amidst the torn gift wrap, she knew any love they once shared had just become another casualty of his damning choices. She would need to staunch these wounds alone. In the months following Emma's dramatic confrontation, life as she knew it began to unravel. Friends she and Jack had always socialized with as a couple started avoiding her calls, not wanting to end up in the middle of a messy divorce. She was losing connections that she previously considered a rock-solid support system. Meanwhile, Jack spiraled into a depression as the scandal torpedoed his career. Most of his clients promptly fired him, leery of being associated with a lawyer caught up in office affairs splashed across the tabloids. Partners relegated Jack to grunt paperwork, hoping to contain the damage to the firm's esteemed reputation. Emma initially took some satisfaction in Jack's downfall, feeling he deserved it after all the deceit. But her contentment was always short-lived before sadness and anger returned in waves. She was building a new life alone, and it weighed heavy each time she passed Jack's empty closet or spotted their wedding photo still displayed in her office. One evening Emma met her friend Lily for dinner. As they sat down at the restaurant, Lily shot Emma a sympathetic smile. "I can't even imagine what you're going through," Lily said, shaking her head. "It's like Jack became a stranger overnight." "What happened?" Emma sighed, pushing salad around her plate. "I've asked myself the same question every day. When the person closest to you is living a double life, it makes you question everything." "Do you think he has any clue that you were the whistleblower?" Lily asked. "I'm not sure." "He knows how resourceful I can be, so maybe he at least suspects," Emma replied. In fact, she was certain Jack was tormented over whether his wife was secretly masterminding his downfall. Not knowing for sure likely unnerved him even more. After her chat with Lily, Emma decided to reach out to Jack, unable to prolong the silent estrangement any longer. She met him for coffee at a quiet cafe one afternoon. As Jack slid into the seat across from her, Emma barely recognized the man sitting before her. His handsome features were worn, eyes heavy with shame and regret. Pity overcame her. "I just wanted to check on how you're holding up. This can't be easy for you either," Emma offered gently. Jack stared down into his coffee mug, shaking his head. "Awful, if I'm being honest. I betrayed my wife and tanked my career in one go. Most days I can barely get out of bed. I know I brought this on myself, but it doesn't hurt any less." Seeing Jack so raw and broken stirred conflicting emotions in Emma, compassion but also a hint of vengeance fulfilled. "Well, maybe this crisis will lead you down a better path someday," Emma replied. "We all have darkness inside. Recognizing it is the only way to keep it from creeping back and causing more destruction." Jack looked thoughtful. I've had a lot more time for self-reflection lately. I keep asking myself when I allowed my ambition to overtake my integrity. The lines got blurry at some point, and I'm ashamed by my own lack of diligence. He paused before asking quietly. Emma, I need to know, did you anonymously leak information about the affair? Is that what tipped this first domino? Emma gazed levelly across the table. She knew this moment would come. Yes, Jack, I did, she stated bluntly. I was hurt and angry and wanted consequences for both you and Diane. But I'm not sorry. Your actions warranted that response. Betrayal has a price. Jack looked stunned but resigned as the truth washed over him. I understand why you felt that was justified. And I don't blame you for it. But knowing you were the catalyst behind all this almost hurts more than the actual scandal itself. His eyes misted over with fresh regret. Emma felt an unwelcome pang of guilt. Perhaps she had gone too far skewering Jack's career and reputation. But the damage was done now, no going back. Anyway, let's talk about something else, Emma redirected. How is Diane handling all this? I imagine her fancy connections can't save her this time. Jack let out a cynical huff. Well, that's the crazy part. This week Diane waltzes back into the office like nothing happened. Turns out she threatened to smear her own father publicly if he doesn't reinstate her position. And poof, back on the fast track she goes. Emma looked at Jack incredulously. You're joking? So she gets off with barely a slap on the wrist while you take the fall? Yep, she played it strategically as always. That woman is ruthless, she was using me all along to advance herself and torpedoed me without blinking. Jack shook his head, looking doubly defeated. Emma sat stunned, news of Diane's maneuvers adding fresh insult to already grievous injury. That woman deserved to be taken down even more than she had realized. In the months following that coffee chat, Jack struggled to stabilize his shredded career and move out of the home he had shared with Emma. Emma immersed herself in work and legal proceedings, trying not to dwell on the sputtering wreckage of a marriage she thought would last an earnest lifetime. On weekends when Emma had their daughter, Lily frequently stopped by with wine and empathy. During one such visit, Emma found herself analyzing her own choices rather than just stewing over Jack's misdeeds. Revenge is complicated, you know? Emma mused as she refilled her wine glass. In the moment it feels totally justified, almost euphoric. But afterward, you're often left feeling just as empty as before, Lily finished. Emma nodded slowly. I was so hellbent on consequences that I didn't consider potential collateral damage. And sadly there's been a lot of that, especially for our daughter. I regret that deeply. Lily gave Emma's hand a supportive squeeze. You did what most of us would want to in your situation. Don't be too hard on yourself. You and Jack created this storm, but calmer days will come again. But Emma struggled to envision brighter days ahead, bogged down by how their individual choices had hurt so many innocent people caught in the crossfire. With distance from her initial fury, Emma could see more clearly how her hunger for retribution had clouded her empathy. She and Jack both had soul-searching yet to do. The next weekend when their daughter Claire visited, Emma decided to broach the subject that had been weighing so heavy on her heart. As she tucked Claire into bed, Emma stroked her hair gently. I'm so sorry about all this grown-up drama with me and Daddy. It hasn't been very fun for you either, has it? Claire shook her head, lower lip protruding. Well, even if Daddy and I don't live together anymore, we both love you very, very much, Emma soothed. I want your world to feel happy and stable again. Maybe this summer you can attend that camp you were excited about? Claire's face instantly lit up. Summers and camp? With the horses and archery and a lake? Really, I can go? Emma smiled, heart swelling with bittersweet relief to see Claire's spark returning. Of course, sweetie. I've already talked to Daddy and he agrees it will be really special for you. We'll work everything out, I promise. As Claire chattered brightly about camp activities, Emma felt the fog of regret and anger lifting just a little. Renewed purpose took its place, being the best mother possible and creating new traditions amidst this adjusted family dynamic. Over the coming year, life slowly stabilized into a new normalcy. Jack moved his law practice into a small starter office, finding purpose advocating for those who couldn't afford large firm prices. The local recognition was humble but still meaningful. Meanwhile, Emma found community by launching a podcast exploring the intricacies of modern relationships. She bonded with listeners going through similar betrayals and questioned experts about the line between vengeance and justice. The project brought catharsis along with a renewed sense of self. Co-parenting peacefully remained a day-by-day work in progress. But Claire continued to blossom in the warmth of their collective love, riding horses at camp, proudly displaying her school art in both homes, giggling over pancakes during weekend breakfasts. Watching their little girl flourish was the balm Emma and Jack needed to move forward with forgiveness, even if the scars still lingered. And bit by bit, the broken pieces reshaped into a picture they could both still recognize, one of family, in whatever form that took.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.